Hi everyone, my name's Kathy Berkidge. I'm in Melbourne, Australia. I'm an Agile coach and trainer and a mindfulness teacher as well. I'm thrilled to be part of Agile World Wellness Edition with Steve and Sabrina. I hope you enjoy this podcast where we talk about all things mindful in Agile and how we might practice both for ourselves and with our teams to be more mindful and a bit more aware as we go through our days. I hope you enjoy this podcast. It's been certainly lots of fun talking to these guys, and I hope you enjoy.
Hello and welcome to Agile World Wellness. How are you doing, Steve? It's been a while.
It has been a while. I'm doing pretty good, but even though I woke up way early this morning so I could talk to you two lovely ladies in different continents, which I think is kind of cool because, we have Australia, we have whatever side of the pond you're on, Sabrina, over there in the UK, and then and then me, and I'm so grateful to have Kathy Berkidge come here to talk to us about mindfulness. So what are you doing, Sabrina? How are you feeling?
Not too bad. I'm getting ready, obviously, for the festive season. Obviously, it's not long now. Obviously, we've got our Agile World Christmas party coming up. Going to have a little bit of festivities, so some more stuff will be coming out later on. But yeah, I'm getting. It's been a tough year for everybody, so I'm getting ready to get together with my family and have some celebrations at the moment.
Well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And what's going to be interesting is we're probably going to release this one after Christmas, but we're almost there for Christmas.
Maybe I should have just said, I'm so exhausted from the festive season, but hey, this is a real world,
Okay, Sabrina's hungover all the time anyway. It doesn't matter. So.
Yeah. So Kathy, how are you? Thank you very much for taking the time to meet with us. We've been so excited, and obviously it's been a bit of a journey because obviously Steve just mentioned we are completely in 3 different corners of the globe. So this is absolutely amazing to get hold of you. So thank you for joining us. How are you?
I'm great, thanks, and thanks for having me along. And we finally found a slot that kind of met all of us. It's pretty early for Steve, and it's a little bit late for me, but we got there in the end. We found something that works, thank goodness. So thanks again for having me.
And it's midday for Sabrina, so we are just so grateful to have you here. And now, Kathy, how did we find you? How did you and Sabrina meet?
I want to say I saw something on LinkedIn about Agile World and then the wellness side. And I think you were saying a few things saying we've started this new initiative, we're talking to all sorts of different people if you think something. And I said, oh, this is great. I think I liked you, and said, we talk about mindfulness stuff, and I've been talking about mindfulness stuff at Agile conferences and other conferences for a while. I thought, maybe it's because it's very much a wellness thing. And I, thought might fit the kind of things that you're doing. So I thought I'd get in touch and say hello and like what you're doing and see if there's any synergies, which there is, which is great.
Yeah. First thing we said was, right, let's get you on. So it's great. That's the warning. You contact us, we're going to pull you in.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you reached out to us through social media, and nobody bit you. Well, I don't know, maybe Sabrina's dachshunds, but they may have. But it was so nice to chat with you when you and I finally got a chance to have a conversation. It was supposed to be about 15 minutes, and we talked for about 30 minutes, and now I feel like I want to give you a hug because you're just so awesome.
My head's going to swell now. Virtual hug.
Yeah. So you're an Agilist. You've traveled around the world. You have family in Hungary. You've been to UK. I know you've been here to the US for a number of different conferences. So tell us a little bit about your journey. What the heck's going on?
Well, I've been incredibly lucky that well, I'm Hungarian by birth, so very much going to the Hungary, and I've also got friends and family around Hungary. I was lucky enough to meet up some people in Czech Republic and do some work over there, and I was also part of the Agile Business Consortium. They're based in, I want to say it's Kent, but I keep thinking it might not be. But anyway, I've been to the UK with them a few times and been to the US a lot too. But I've been lucky to travel the world because I love traveling. I never traveled until my daughter moved out of home, strangely enough. And then when she sort of left, I sort of went, hang on, she's finished school and she's not home. I've got all this extra money. Where did that come from? So best I use it to travel the world. And I've been lucky to speak at conferences, agile conferences, business analysis conferences, project management conferences, mainly because, well, I'm an agilist. I'm in IT since the 80s, 1980s. That doesn't mean that I'm, that old. Maybe I am. But anyway, so I've started in IT, but I learned mindfulness probably nearly 20 years ago. And as I sort of morphed from being a, what's the word, hands-on agile to more like a coach or a trainer, because I do a lot of training, a lot of coaching, a lot of consulting, I found that I could teach anyone agile, because agile, as in ceremonies and practices and processes and tools, that stuff's easy. Anyone can learn that. But I found the missing piece was the mindset. And the more I thought about mindset, the more I realized, well, mindset's attitude, and attitude comes from being mindful, which means being aware. So I just sort of said, well, if we really want to be agile, if we really want to have an agile mindset, we've got to watch our own attitude. We've got to be mindful of how we're thinking. Are we thinking agile? Are we thinking in line with those principles and values that those 17 guys put forward over 20 years ago? Are we thinking and behaving in that line? It doesn't matter if we're using Jira and standing up and doing sprints or whatever we're doing. That stuff's not what Agile is. Agile is the attitude that's adopted into the way of thinking and working to ensure that we create value and minimize waste and collaborate. And I thought, well, if we don't pay attention to our attitude, if we don't pay attention to, are we being agile or are we just going through the motions, we're not going to get the value. So that's how I sort of connected agile and mindfulness. But of course, that was after, many, many years of being a mindfulness teacher and practitioner as well.
And you're right. There is an important link between the two, which some people don't recognize. And yeah, you're right. I feel that everybody, we need it in our day-to-day lives anyway, but I think especially within coaching and training, we do need to think of mindfulness and we do need to pass that coaching and training on. So I'm quite interested, actually, how do you do that? What's your process or what's your thinking pattern? I'm delving in.
So mindfulness is a tough one in a way. I get a question nearly every time I speak. I'm at a conference, people say, hey, I'm mindful, but that person isn't. How can I make them mindful? You can't. The only one person that can be mindful is you. But as a coach, as a trainer, as a consultant, or even I was just a BA at one stage, I was a project manager, you don't have to say, right, stop, be mindful. That's not the way you do it. You just go, hang on a minute, we're all just getting a little bit, let's just take a moment to just kind of come back, bring some awareness in, kind of clear our mind and just go forward with a bit more clarity, a bit more cohesion, a little bit more calmness. So, because, things get hairy, at work or at home. It doesn't have to be in an agile team. It can be anything. So as a leader or especially if you're a scrum master, for example, if you're a mindfulness practitioner yourself, you can't sort of say, let's run a meditation session in the middle of this stand-up. We can't do that. But we can just say, hang on, everybody, just come and let's be present for each other. How many stand-ups have you seen that everybody's not listening to each other? That each person's talking and I know, can you believe it? So many times it's like, well, the stand-up is not for fun. So I thought that just as a leader, if you're in that position of a coach or a scrum master or a leader, you can kind of give those cues out. But again, you can't force, no one's got control over your attention except for you. So if we equip people with tools, and again, when I talk about it and get people to think about how can they learn mindfulness, practice mindfulness, and apply it in an agile team or in their day-to-day life when we're dealing with, well, life, especially the last few years, it just helps take that watching our own attitude, being aware of what's really going on, because so often we're barely aware of what's going through our mind, where our minds are racing with thoughts and memories and plans and all this stuff, and we're barely aware of what's right in front of us a lot of the time. So I think if we can prompt people to come back and bring that awareness in and say, hang on a minute, hang on, just whoa, let's come to this from a more considered mindful place, it's going to help.
And it's funny you say that, actually, because you've just reminded me of an experience I had. This was many years ago, I did my Cal 1 training session. And the first thing our coach and trainer got us to do was all sit in a circle, hold hands, and actually sit there and learn how to breathe. Now, in the UK, that's a very strange, surreal experience. Me being Mediterranean, I'm very touchy-feely, but for everyone else, it's kind of like, hang a minute, I came here to learn about agile leadership. You want me to sit in a circle? And I remember the first moment he got us to do it, and the atmosphere in the room before changed to everyone getting all very excitable, meeting each other, then very confusion. And then when he actually got us through the process, the calmness and how we didn't, now I'm the worst for this, and you know this, Steve, the talking over each other, being excitable, that's my personality, unfortunately, in general. But it all did become very calm after we did it. And then the next time we did it, when we came back from lunch, you could see the appreciation once everybody kind of understood it and experienced it after doing that meditation process. And it's something no one had ever experienced. And you just literally gave me a memory there when you just mentioned, because I thought, hang a minute, I've been in that scenario and realized how important it actually is. So it just reminded me. Sorry, Steve, you've probably I've jumped in quite a lot here. I'm sorry, Steve.
No, but so Sabrina, you are 100% correct. Not that you've jumped in a lot, but you're 100%. You're 100% correct on the fact that teams, once they start to embrace it, and it's very uncomfortable at first, but once you start to embrace it, things change. Recently, I went to a connection workshop that my friend Allie Peterson was hosting. She opened up a yoga studio close to my home, and this was 6 months ago, or maybe 4 months ago. So it was. The world has just started to open up where we are. And I have not seen many people face to face. And in fact, I went to a couple yoga practices where everybody was wearing masks. And the first time that they were allowed to take their masks off, I couldn't stop staring at Allie and the other people, because I hadn't seen faces, outside of my own family's faces for so long. And and Allie and I, we were laughing because we were both staring at each other. We both knew what was happening. But this connection workshop puts you in a position to where there was 25 people there. I didn't know most of them. And we were standing face to face with each other. We were, looking at each other in the eyes, and we were, gazing at each other, and we had to accept because it's extremely uncomfortable, and you had to breathe your way through it. You had to think about what you were feeling, and you had to, accept it and deal with it, whatever that might have been. And it was really an amazing event, just to go through that. But we've also often walked into a room and you can just feel the setting in the room, whether it's tension, whether it's happiness, whether it's frustration. And if you can just explain to people, hey, what's going on? What's everybody feeling right now? Are we running down a rabbit hole? Are we getting overstressed about something that we can't control? what's happening, just bringing people back to, wait a second, think about where we are in the moment, can be such a powerful, powerful thing. And maybe the holding hands could be a little uncomfortable, but even through Zoom, we can still do that. We just did that the other day. Just, hey guys, what's going on? Everybody's chattering. Yeah. And you can bring everybody back if you can get people to just think for a minute.
Yeah, it's interesting too. Something I've been looking at in media and news and even shows, and the word, we have to be mindful of the time. We have to be mindful of her past, blah, blah, blah. And we say the word, we have to be mindful. We have to be mindful of X, Y, and Z. But if you try to think of what word are we trying to say in that word mindful, we're saying either, usually one, aware of, or two, careful of. 99% of the time when you say, I need to be mindful of something, it's because I want to be aware of it or I want to be careful of it. And mindful, we use it in that day-to-day vernacular in that way. We need to be mindful of Steve because he's very sensitive. We're saying we're being careful and aware of Steve, right? And mindfulness, that's all it is. If we have to be mindful of the time, we have to be aware of the time. We have to be careful and aware of the time. And that's really what mindfulness is. We need to be aware and a bit more careful about what we're paying attention to and how we're responding to it. And that's as simple as it is. The word is crept into our day-to-day language because it is synonymous with those two other words. And I when people say, what is mindfulness? I usually say, if you go to Google Land, if you go into the interwebs and you look at the definition of mindfulness, you'll find an amazing amount of definitions from all sorts of really Eastern ones to modern Western ones and everything in between. So people ask me to define it. I'm like, well, who am I to define it? I can just tell you that there's many aspects. And I think carefulness and awareness are the biggest aspects, a carefulness of what we're paying attention to and how we're responding to it. And of course, awareness, because we often are not aware of what we're really thinking, what's really in front of us even. Even if we think we're aware, sometimes we're not really aware. We think about the classic one. This is the one that all of us mindfulness people talk about. If you've ever driven in your car home from work or to anywhere, you're driving, you arrive home or arrive at work or wherever, and then you if you think back and say, how was that drive? Were you aware of you driving? And you probably, of course hopefully you didn't have a smash and you didn't hit a pedestrian or anything else, but you're barely aware because we've got this human tendency of being on this kind of autopilot, which is nothing bad. It's just the way us humans are because there's so much sensory input that we can autopilot our way driving a car because that lets our mind wander about worries or memories or all those things. So if we were really aware, we'd remember that drive because all of us, nearly every person I speak to can remember that time that they've driven somewhere and have no recollection of that journey. Even if you're just sitting on a bus, you don't have to be driving, you zone out because your mind just takes off and you wander. So
do you find there is a fine line as well with the fact you mentioned about the fact there's being mindful about your environment and situation? Do you find that sometimes there's a fine line where you can go a bit too more one way or a bit too more the other way? Because there is a balance in this as well. And like you've mentioned, there's being wary of a situation or an environment, and then there's being not so wary. Do you find there is a balance that you need to take?
Absolutely. Because mindfulness, if you thought about it from some of the definitions that you'll see if you go out there, it's being completely aware without judgment or being completely aware and deliberate attention, all these things. Well, that's all well and good, but we do have to work. We do have to solve problems. We do have to do things. We can't just say, I'm going to sit here in this blissful mindfulness moment for the rest of my life. I do need to make plans and I do need to recall things these are perfectly normal and natural things to do. But being mindful is this right now, present moment thing that helps us ground, and it helps us perhaps when we are in any situation, we've got that ability to be in that situation and fully comprehend what's happening without probably skewing the way that we're perceiving it, or memories or beliefs are skewing information, because we are all biased. It's the way we are. We're human. So when we are in a situation, we can kind of evaluate the situation, evaluate what's happening, and then choose to respond. But if you were to stay in that awareness without kind of moving on and saying, well, now I need to act, I need to do something, that's when you sort of go back to normal, if you know what I mean. But yeah, being mindful as much as you can helps you see things a lot more clearly. So therefore you will be able to make better decisions and go forward. Because have you ever had that experience where someone's talked to you and before you've known it, you've snapped, you've said something rash or whatever, you know? I'm sure it's never happened with your personal relationships. But mindfulness is a concept of, well, you can listen and hear someone out and then evaluate it, appraise it, almost you take that pause and stand back from that initial reaction, so you don't blurt out something that you're going to regret later. You might do or say something that you'll look back on and be embarrassed about. So one thing I find is the personal benefit for me is that ability to stand back from, you know, I hear something and I immediately want to say something, or I immediately get angry, or I immediately want to laugh my head off, or whatever the case is. I can kind of see it in a bit more of a realistic lens without kind of all those ideas that we put on top of things. You know, if we look up in the sky and we see a cloud and we say the cloud looks like a dog or it looks like an angel, cloud doesn't look like anything. Cloud looks like a cloud. We put that on the cloud, you know? So mindfulness is kind of removing those labels and the things that we add to every piece of information around us, what we like, what we don't like, past memories, you know, and we kind of judge things very quickly and we're very quick to kind of jump. But mindfulness lets us stand back and see things kind of a bit more as they are in reality, without that extra layer on top that we all put on.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And so one of the things that happened to me is I love my camera and I love taking photos of people. And I realized that often I would go to events and I'd spend my time taking photos of things, thinking about how it was. And I've even done that on vacation, holidays, like I went to Niagara Falls, beautiful falls. And so one of the things I started practicing doing is, okay, I'm going to take photos for 10 minutes and then the camera goes away. And then I'm going to focus on just what is here, what is happening now. And I've been able to enjoy the things around me so much more. You know, one of the things with the falls is we were underneath Niagara Falls. You have to wear these raincoats and the rain's coming down. So I'm with my family and everything. So, you know, taking photos and telling the family. And then, so I finally told them, look, you guys go back up and I'm going to stay here for 5 or 10 minutes, just me. That's it. And I just sat there or stood there and just listened to the falls and watched the falls and experienced them. That's all I did was focus on the falls. And it was really a very memorable experience. And I think we often run into that. Sometimes we are stressed. Sometimes we can't seem to make a decision. And if we step back, because one of the things I've learned to do is step back and just kind of go through it. Okay, am I hungry? Am I well slept? Is something going on in my monkey mind? You know, is there another decision that I need to make and to get this one out of the way? You know, am I feeling healthy, or, you know, do I have something going on? And just kind of running through a checklist like that and think, oh, you know what? I haven't eaten today. So let me go eat, come back, and then let's see if I can accomplish this. Because right now something's happening. I don't know what it is, but it ain't happening, right?
Yeah, I love that. I love that story of the falls. You see it all the time. People, they come, they take their photos, and they look at their own shots, and then they walk away, and you're like, but it's an interesting one what you said about that checklist. I find that that's something that is so simple, a simple little tool to just say, hang on, let's stop, let's become aware of what's going on. And often that awareness is not just about all that checklist which you've got, but awareness saying, what am I thinking about this? What am I feeling right now? Because we don't get in touch with that. And sometimes because we haven't stopped to really evaluate, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? Have I got an emotion? Have I got a sensation going on? Sometimes those sensations, if we pay attention to them, can be really good triggers to say, hang on, gee, I've got this funny, my shoulders up, you know. Sometimes we walk around and they're like this, oh, we've got a clenched jaw, which is my horrible one. Oh, jaws clenched. What am I stressing about? And it's funny that I noticed the physical in my body before I realized, oh, I'm stressing about this or I'm replaying a bad event. So just being aware of it's not just outside world, it's our inner world, which can bring us so much clues to say, well, how am I seeing this now? I used to call it the brain check-in. A lot of us mindfulness teachers will say the same thing. It's like, let's check in, not with each other, but with what my brain's doing. Hang on, brain, what's going on up there? What's happening in that mind? What am I thinking here? How am I appraising this situation? Whether it's the news, because so often the news is just awful and it sets your mind off. Oh, this COVID again. Oh, now we've got Omicron. Now we've got this. Now we've got that. It's like, hang on, what am I thinking now? Oh, okay. Do I need to continue this thought process? Is this serving me at the moment? Is this helpful or not helpful? And that to me is where the wellness, when I look at, I've just looked again at your wonderful Chuppa Chups, of course, and the wellness above it. And it's like, well, sometimes if we don't check in with our minds will continue this rumination and this procrastination and catastrophizing and, exaggerating. So what I find with mindfulness, being able to check in with my thoughts and say, well, you know what, I don't have to have that thought. I don't have to think this way. Each of us has, generally speaking, without, there are situations depending on mental capacity, mental illness and other problems like that. But generally speaking, we do have complete control over our thoughts. We just got to take the reins back and not kind of let the mind run by itself. So at any time you can choose to think that thought or that thought. You actually can direct it yourself. And it's interesting when you experiment with your own thoughts and, ooh, where'd that thought come from? Oh, okay, do I want to keep thinking this way or do I want to change my thought process that way? Especially when we think of, resilience, for example. Resilience is not a magic quality that you're born with or you're not, but resilience is the ability to kind of move past something. And what I find with mindfulness is I don't replay a stressful or a bad event because you kind of get held back by it if it keeps replaying and you re-traumatize yourself or re-hurt yourself each time. It's the ability to say, okay, I acknowledge that that's happened. I'm going to move forward now. I'm going to let go. I'm going to put that to bed. I'm going to bounce from that and go forward. So there's lots of aspects around mindfulness. I don't pretend to be any professor, but there's definitely studies from psychologists in Berkeley and all sorts of Yale, all sorts of different schools are studying some of the positive benefits. There are, there can be negative effects too, which I know that's coming out a little bit too, but it definitely can help for wellness. I personally think it saved my life at one point. no small exaggeration. So.
It does link to so I think one interesting thing maybe our followers or our listeners, anyone who's watching this or listening to this on our podcast will probably be asking, especially with everything that's going on in the world now, is there any particular techniques that someone could use either on a day-to-day basis? Because I'm sure there'll be people listening or watching right now be going, actually, when was the last time I checked in, or this is new, or what can I do? I've now realized this is happening. Do you have any hints and tips, some sneaky little techniques you can give away for free?
from the school that I come from and how I learnt mindfulness, we were told there was 84,000 ways to be mindful. I can't go through all of them tonight.
All right. I got a pencil. All right, let's write down 84,000. All right, hang on.
First one. I think there's so where the first thing that I recommend for most people, there are apps, there's hundreds of resources out there. Find one, because that's why there's 84,000 different ways, because we're all individual. It's a bit like food. I personally love bananas. My partner hates them. That's because we're all individual. What one person loves, another person hates. And so finding what works for you and your particular nuances and personality and lifestyle. But for me, it's little things like you might wear. I know people who wear a lacquer band. Sounds really bizarre. I know people who wear a lacquer band, and they'll use that to remind themselves when they see it. They'll flick it. Sounds really awful. And by flicking it, that brings them back to the moment to be able to check in, breathe, come to the present, check in with what's happening in their mind, with their feelings, with their emotions, with their thoughts, all that stuff. So I know that's one of my friends does that, and that was one of the tools that people have taught. There's apps too. There's this one app, what's it called? I should have had it written down in front of me. There's an app that basically at random times your phone will have an alarm, and it won't be like a big long alarm, but it'll be an alarm to say, be mindful for a minute. Because sometimes if you don't have that prompt, you don't stop to do it. But once you get into the habit, you will naturally stop, and you'll listen to someone. For example, like for me, I personally use anytime I have to wait. Now you think about all the times that you have to wait in your life. Red lights, bus, train, people leaving the bathroom before you because you're waiting if the ladies' room, the old days, I don't know if you remember, it's always a queue for the ladies' room. So whenever you're waiting, that was the thing that I cottoned into first is, all right, this is an opportunity to be mindful. This is, red light, perfect. I can come back to some awareness. I don't have to go sit under a tree in a lotus position to be mindful. I can just wait for a prompt. Another thing I really like, a work-oriented one, is before any email, before you read one or you write one, before any email, just stop, check in, come to the present, and then read that email or write that email, especially if you're writing it, because sometimes stopping yourself from writing, I don't think that some of those, if you've had those emails, I know that we all have, that someone's sent it without really, they've gone off a bit early. So finding something that is that trigger for you to say, oh, now this is a way for me to attach, okay, before I do this, or that's prompted me to come back and have that moment to just kind of breathe and what's happening here, what's going, is this the best way to go forward? Should I really say that, or should I really do that, or whatever it is, just to become more aware and finding what will be the trigger that works best for you. That's where I sort of give a few ideas, but everyone will have a different one. Some people will be, for me, when the kettle's boiling is another good one. When you're waiting for the kettle to boil, because it's another wait, right? Anything that's a wait for me, like anything I'm waiting for, this is a good time to check in. So that's become my practice anyway for kind of day-to-day mindfulness. But of course, I do meditate, of course, which is the more kind of I call it the formal practice. Informally, you can do it anytime, anywhere, but formally, as you meditate and you deliberately choose to still your mind and kind of a lot of different definitions of meditation as well. So I always think meditation is just that personal space that I'm going to shut down from other things around me. I'm going to and deliberately look inside for a little while. So that's the way I describe meditation. It doesn't have to be anything particularly special. And I find when I meditate, and as I've, for 20 years I've been meditating, I've been finding, especially after the first first couple of years, as I meditate more, I'm able to be mindful more in my day. And if I don't meditate now, I feel something's missing. Something's missing from my life. What is it? I didn't meditate today because, maybe I was traveling, or maybe there was something stopped me. So.
Those techniques are great. And I'm now going to be rethinking. I normally squat when I'm waiting for the coffee machine. I like to squat when I've got moments. I might change that slightly. So when I'm waiting for my coffee, I'll squat on some occasions.
Okay.
Yeah, no, they're really, really, really good techniques. I like those, and I think they're going to be really
You can do that with squatting. You can squat at the same time. So what you would do, what I would do if it was me, don't not squat, but squat with full awareness. So do your squat, but instead of your squat when you're thinking about whatever you're thinking, squat, but feel your breath, feel your muscles, and you'll be surprised how, especially when you're doing something like a squat or some sort of exercise, feel all the way down. Like, I love walking meditation. Walking for me is a classic because you don't have to stop what you're doing. You can continue, but it's just about the awareness and stopping your mind drifting, but come to, I'm having a squat. Where's my breath? Am I in-breathing, out-breathing? How does my thighs or calves, or where's my center of balance? And just be aware of that. And that's just as good. So don't stop the squatting. Just become more aware of the process.
I will still squat. Love my squatting.
It's a big awareness of feel the squat, because probably, and I don't know if I'm right, you might be squatting, but while you're squatting, your mind's thinking about, what am I doing today? What am I doing? So you're squatting in autopilot. So squat in mindfulness. There you go. There's a new practice. I've never thought of a mindfulness squat before, but why not? That's what yoga is. Remember?
I will try it and video record it for you.
Ooh, that will be fun. That will be fun.
Right.
And it's interesting that you bring that up, because the bodybuilders that I know, not the guys that lift weights, or the women that lift weights for health, but the true bodybuilders, the competitors that I've known, when they teach people to do any of the exercises, it's like, okay, so you have to think about this, you have to feel this, and they talk about feeling every muscle and every fiber. So they become very mindful in all of their movements. It's not just going through the exercises and thinking about other things. It's no, you are there and you are present, and you are feeling every movement, and you are thinking about every step of the way. So I think that is very important. And for our teams, whenever there is a time, maybe it is a good way. Some of the things that we've done with our teams is have a check-in when they come back from breaks. How are you feeling right now? Give us one word. Happy, sad. What are you feeling? What's going on? And I love my mental checklist that I like to go through. It just helps me. Am I sleepy? Am I hungry? Am my monkey mind? What do I need to clear out so I can start focusing again? And sometimes it's like, what? I'm feeling pretty good. Let's just jump in.
How are you feeling now, Steve? Because it's like 5 o'clock in the morning for you right now.
I'm feeling tired and grumpy. How you feeling?
You're never grumpy. You're like never grumpy, no matter when it is. This has been amazing. Thank you ever so much, Kathy. And hopefully we would love to invite you back again, because with your knowledge and experience, I think there'll be so many things that you can help people with. So thank you ever so much for your time. Is there anything else you want to add? Steve, Kathy, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I do want to point out that we're going to have links for Kathy and any of her practices that she'd like to share in the show notes. So you can come back for that. And if you want to hear more from Kathy, please let us know. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can find us, because we're going to continue to do more of these wellness items. And Kathy, maybe you and I can go through my checklist, and maybe we can come up with an acronym or something, and you can add some of your checklist items. Maybe we can come up with a nice little checklist that people could use on a regular basis. So Kathy, any final words from Australia?
G'day, mate. Of course, I have to say that. Again, I find that mindfulness is a massive subject. There's a lot of good stuff out there. There's a lot of interesting stuff out there. There's a lot of misinformation out there too. But I think it's something that it's very individual. I don't think that anybody who says it's got to be done this way and only this way, I think that that's where I get a little bit, you have to do it yourself. And as I said, there's so many different ways to practice mindfulness, finding the right one for you. And don't feel that just because someone does this and I don't like that, it doesn't work for me, it doesn't mean that you can't be mindful or you can't meditate. There's so many different styles. So go out and investigate, get curious about it, and read up and find stuff. And of course, there's so much stuff. I can always point people in different directions depending on what sort of questions they might have, because there's just so much information to weed through. So
that is awesome. And the main thing to remember about mindfulness is you can spend 30 minutes meditating, or you can spend 30 seconds just checking in with yourself. Right? There's no right or wrong way. And it's better to do the 30-second check-in than not do anything at all.
Oh, so, well said, Steve. You took the words right out of my mouth. Thank you.
Kathy, Sabrina, this was wonderful. Thank you guys so much. You are awesome.
You are awesome too.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Cheers.
you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.